this week has seen U.S. President Donald Trump impose new sanctions on Russia. Whilst in a meeting with Ukrainian President, Trump told him the best way to end the war in Ukraine would be to cut up the country and give up swaths of territory to Russia. Despite Trump's repeated mantra of ending 7 wars since he took office 9 months ago, the war he said he would end in 24 hours continues to elude him. Trump has tried to force Ukraine to capitulate to end the war. Trump cut arms and aid to Ukraine. He proceeded to blame Ukraine for causing the war and humiliated Zelensky in the White House in February. Despite Trump directly meeting Russian leader Vladimir Putin in August, Russia has continued to expand the war and stretch Ukrainian forces who have for long been struggling on all fronts. But for Russia, the Ukraine invasion was not based on a whim, but due to the existential challenge of Western expansion and encroachment towards Russia's borders. As a result, Putin has strung Trump along, despite the numerous offers of strategic deals, technology, and financial investment to sweeten the deal. As Russia refused to compromise on this strategic matter, the sanctions on Russia's largest oil companies is what Trump has been forced to fall back on. Trump had hoped he could dilute Russia-Chinese relations by bargaining Ukraine, but Russia has not taken the bait. Trump's mantra of ending the war in 24 hours is now looking as silly as ever. The U.S. has ordered the USS Gerald Ford and 5 destroyers to deploy to Latin America as Trump ratchets up pressure on Venezuela. For 2 months, the U.S. military has been building up a force of warships, fighter jets, bombers, marines, drones, and spy planes in the Caribbean Sea. It is the largest deployment there for decades. Long-range bomber planes have carried out bomber attack demonstrations off the coast of Venezuela. Trump has authorized the deployment of the CIA to Venezuela, and now the world's largest aircraft carrier is being sent to the region. Donald Trump has declared this is a war on narcotics traffickers, even though fentanyl is primarily produced in Mexico, not South America, and comes into the U.S. over the southern border. Venezuela does not produce large quantities of cocaine. That's mainly Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. There is some cocaine trafficked through Venezuela, which its own government claims it is cracking down on. The U.S. does not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the president of Venezuela after the last election in 2024 was widely dismissed internationally and by the opposition in Venezuela as neither free nor fair. The current confrontation hasn't emerged from nowhere. It represents the bitter harvest of nearly 3 decades of American intervention that has consistently achieved the opposite of its stated goals. The breakdown began with Hugo Chávez's election in 1999, when military officers briefly overthrew Chávez for 47 hours. The George W. Bush administration's recognition of the coup government devastated America's credibility, even after officials backtracked when the putsch collapsed. This established a pattern that would repeat for decades: United States support for regime change through extra-legal means, followed by failure and recrimination. Trump has long argued for ending America's forever wars and not starting new ones, but with Venezuela, he has continued with what his predecessors all tried to do and ultimately failed in achieving. China's ruling Communist Party announced that it will focus on speeding up self-reliance in science and technology, a long-running push that has become more pronounced as the U.S. has imposed increasingly tight controls on access to semiconductors and other high-tech items. The announcement came in a communique after a 4-day meeting of the Chinese Communist Party's 4th plenum, where the country's 5-year plans are outlined with the top economic, security, and political priorities for China. The communique highlighted China faces profound and complex changes and rising uncertainty. The communique did not directly mention the trade war with U.S. President Donald Trump. The communique contained few surprises, largely echoing the policy direction set out by Chinese leader Xi Jinping, who wants to build China into a tech leader and global power with a robust military, able to command respect and exert international influence. China is now in a full-blown trade war with the U.S., and its moves will have long-term implications. For the moment, China has been able to go toe-to-toe with U.S. sanctions and restrictions. But the great power battle of our era is now well underway, and its outcome will determine the future of the global order.